Good morning, Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty, here to discuss real estate in San Mateo, Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa County. I'm calling that the Bay Area. Yes, it's only 4 out of 9 counties that are considered the Bay Area, but it represents 75% of the real estate activity. So it is actually fairly significant portion of the Bay Area. I'm looking at single family homes, condos, and townhouses, and we're referencing 2010 through 2019 as my base years. The first data slide that we're going to look at is offers accepted for the past 5 weeks in those 4 counties compared to the 10-year median. When you're above the horizontal black line, you had a surplus amount of demand. When you're below, you had a deficit. You can see we rapidly changed from basically the middle of April to a surplus of about 600 homes every 5 weeks to a deficit of about 1,600 homes every 5 weeks. And then basically the month of July and August, we've now improved and we only have a deficit of 1,000 homes. So yes, you still have a deficit. Yes, the market's still less activity than you'd expect it to be, but you've improved by about a third. Here is just a table. It's pretty hard to really read, but here's your dates. So this is through midnight yesterday, midnight the 26th. And this is out of the last 10 years, where do we rank? So you can see that basically since beginning of May, we were either the 9th or 10th worst year as far as the number of offers accepted. We started off the year second only to 2021. 2021 was surplus because of the 2020 stoppage because of shelter in place, and those buyers that wanted to buy delayed, some of them a full year, and 2021 made up for the deficit of 2020. This is a breakdown. You have single family homes on the left, and then you have condos and townhouses on the right. In all cases, I've combined all 4 counties, and I broke the counties down in order more or less of activity level and going around in logic. So we do Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, and San Mateo County. You can see the number of new listings were down across the board last week. That's because sellers don't come on the market the week before a holiday because they don't want to be on the market the holiday weekend when buyers are busy doing other things and not going to be coming to their open house. You can see the total number of active listings decreased slightly as a result, but the number of offers also decreased because there was less new inventory. The buyers that are out there looking all the time are waiting for that new listing to come on the marketplace. So you had basically somewhere around a 33% drop, 35% drop in the number of listings were available for buyers to buy, and you only had 11% drop in the activity level. So that's actually fairly good. Offers accepted were basically flat from the week before, so that's also good. And that's comparing 5 weeks. Up here, I'm comparing just 1 week, which is why you see the dramatic drop going into the holiday week. Here, you're looking at 5 weeks. And the reason I look at 5 weeks is it's more stable, and this is a great example of why it's more stable. Moving down to number of closings, this is the first thing up here is only 1 week, which again is going to jump all over the place. Not really relevant because it's 1 week data, so it jumps, and it's also offers that were negotiated 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. But now we look at 5-week closing because you have stable data and you get some meaningful information. You have the sale price to list price ratio frequency, 45%. Bay Area wide, 45% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price, but it varies quite a bit. Santa Clara County is low at 39% of the sellers. Alameda County is 52%. So that's a fairly wide range of about 14%. The median overbid is exactly 100%. The average overbid, which is why I follow it, is 101.6%. Normally, median is a much better indicator of what's going on in the marketplace, but when you're above or below a number, such as 100%, sellers taking a little bit less, a little bit more, the median is going to be 100% fairly frequently. Now you can see that it is for all 4 counties. You can see it is for 2 of the individual counties, and it could be there for several weeks. So it doesn't fluctuate, where the average is going to fluctuate a lot more. And you can see Santa Clara County again is the hardest hit at only 99.8%. And then the best is again Alameda County at almost 105%. So Alameda County is doing stronger than Santa Clara County. Don't know if that's an affordability issue. People with the increasing interest rates are leaving the more expensive counties, going to the little bit more affordable areas. Coming down to the price range, 10 percentile is the cheapest 10 percentile in Santa Clara County, is just at $1 million. The median was 1.6 and the 90 percentile was 3.3 million. And you'll see that there is some differences in my numbers, and that's just a fluke, and we could try to look into why. This is indicating that the median price is just over 1.6 million. Another number that will be coming up later will show just under $1.6 million. Anyway, the big takeaway is the appreciation from 2020, and that's my base is the entire calendar year 2020. And when you look at this and see somewhere between 13% and 20% appreciation, you go, wow, that's pretty good. And overall, you're at 20%. But those numbers were much higher just a little while ago. And then condos are over on the right-hand side. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and look at what I call blended data. It's San Mateo and Santa Clara County only, but still looking at single-family homes and condos and townhouses. This is the sale price to list price distribution for each of the past 22 weeks. They're grouped in weeks of 8. Part of that 8 is the best week and the worst week ever. So the best week we ever had is this red dotted line up here, March 26th of 2022, just earlier this year. And the worst week we ever had was November 30th back in 2001 after the World Trade Center. But you can see the dotted lines, which are the oldest, are the best. Then the dashed lines and the solid lines. So clearly the market's been going generally in this direction. You also see the solid lines are starting to get grouped together, which would suggest that we're at a plateau. This requires sale price. So this plateau was actually reached about 5 weeks ago. If we look back, 5 weeks ago was July. The month of July, the beginning of July, is the buyer demand started to turn around and come back up again. That's what's caused the stability to sort of come in the amount of overbidding. The other thing is, even though we're getting very close horizontally to the blue dotted line compared to how far we've traveled from the red dotted line not too long ago, you would think we may get there pretty rapidly. The closer you get to the blue line, the harder it is to get there. And that's just the psychology of the buyers more than anything. Basically, buyers are not willing to go in and offer significantly below list price. They wait for the seller to reduce their price and then they go in from there. So the sale price to list price, when you use the list price at the time the offer was accepted, which has been my definition, it stays pretty close to 100%. It gets very resistant to go below 100%. When buyers are competing each other, they're willing to bid up quite a bit. Sellers are not willing to take that same 15%, 18% off the asking price and sell for 82% of the sale price. It just is not going to happen. They would reduce their price, and it makes sense because if there's resistance to come in low, if you're 5% high, you're better off taking a 2.5% or 4% or 5% price reduction and see if you can't get that one motivated buyer to come in and make an offer. Here again is just 12 weeks. The dotted lines are the oldest, and you can see they were first, followed by the dashed lines, and then the solid lines are pretty grouped together. And that's, again, an indication of a stabilized marketplace. This data here almost looks like it's bizarre, but what you have to, and that's the available number of new listings in 1 week. And you're comparing it to, because it's a percentage, you're comparing it to the 5-year median. If you go back and look at the calendar, January 1st of this year was on a Saturday. So my first week was early in the year. Labor Day is late in the year, not as late as it possibly can be, but late in the cycle, because it can only be from the 1st to the 7th, and it's going to be on the 5th this year. That added a week. So instead of Labor Day being in week 35 in the 5-year median that I'm using, it's in week 36 this time. So the slowdown, the improvement here is because normally there's a slowdown, and the drop off here is because you do have less weeks listings coming on this week in week 35, because the week before the holiday is when sellers don't go on the marketplace because they don't want their listing to be hitting on a holiday weekend. And normally you have a rebound, which is why this drop is so much. With a little knowledge, you basically have to go, the up would be more than the down would be more than the up. Where are we? We're probably not really unchanged. We're probably somewhere between 90 and 100%. The market's acting sort of the same as it has been since about week 27, and probably all the way back here at about week 23 as far as the number of new listings. What's that saying? It's saying the sellers now know that the market is not superheated like it had been in 2021 and the first part of 2022, and they're now not coming on the marketplace as rapidly as they would normally come on the marketplace. That in itself helps correct the marketplace. The other thing you're looking at is total inventory. You can see inventory peaked at week 27 here. It also was pretty high back here in week 23. This is when we were in the slowdown, but it was so early in the slowdown that listing agents that have a month marketing program to get ready to go on the marketplace already had the listing signed. They're going to move forward with that inventory, even though the market changed. You had a surplus inventory here because your new listings were 100% of normal. And then you can see here, starting in week 26, we've been basically at 90% of normal. The number of sellers that are optional, a fair number of them are going to delay putting their house on the market until the market conditions improve. That helps improve the market conditions by driving the available inventory. Then the percentage of number of new listings, new offers coming on is the red line. And the good news is the buyers are coming back. You know, we were down at 80% since week 15, essentially. And now starting in week 30, we've climbed from 15%. In week 35, we're about 15% above. Now, this last data point, the big increase from here, which is just above, to here is the holiday. Probably we're much closer to 100% if we eliminated the holiday impact, which you can't do. Now you're looking at DUI. DUI is the single biggest indicator. This is one indicator where bigger is bad. You want a low DUI. You want a fast turn rate. This is how quickly would the market turn, or how quickly is the market turning over. And you can see that normally it jumps up this week because it's the week after the holiday. So you're flooded with new inventory and the buyers haven't had an opportunity to buy it yet. This year we're going down. The reason we're going down is last week there was a shortage of new inventory. So there's less inventory. Buyers were still available to look at inventory and were able to present their offers. You had a huge decrease. Again, where do I think it really is? Probably fairly level, maybe a slight downturn. Hard to really know. That's one reason I take so many data points and so many different types of data is at each time of the year, there's different data that's less meaningful than other data. Here's looking at simply the raw count. I'm looking in the blue line as the number of new listings and the number of new offers. When you have more new listings up here than you have new offers, the market slows down. Now we're getting pretty close. What do I expect to happen next week? Next week, I expect the new offers to turn around and go back up, and I expect the number of new offers because of the lag time to go down. So we'll have a little bit of separation, but not to the degree we were having earlier this year. Here's just DUI. You can in raw numbers for those that don't like me to process things. So you can see we're just under 40, and this is basically on a 5-week number. So it's looking at single family homes, condos, and townhouses, both San Mateo County and Santa Clara County. And remember, 40 is my threshold of a seller's marketplace. We're right there on the cusp. We're a very hot neutral marketplace or a very cool seller's marketplace. Here's looking at median days on market. I put it in for completeness. I think it's totally irrelevant. The amount of increase here is lagging. It's showing that we really didn't start climbing until July, and we've only climbed from a very low number of like 8 to a reasonable number of like 17. Or if you look at average, we've climbed from something like 12 to a number something like 26. And you compare that to the previous slide with DUI, where you were down here at something like 17, climbed all the way up to 60, and you've already improved back to 40. You can see how much more sensitive this is and how much closer this actually happened to when the market shifted. Here's sold price that everybody's interested in. You have the cheapest 10 percentile down here, the median 50 percentile in the orange, and then top 90 percentile. You can see all price ranges are coming back down. And if you come back in time, you see that you're coming back to basically somewhere around April of 2021 for current pricing. All the price appreciation for the second half of 2021, all of that of 2022 has all been wiped out. It was basically a paper gain and loss unless you happen to buy or sell. If you sold during that peak, congratulations. If you happen to purchase, you're now upside down unless you got a heck of a buy when you purchase, which some people obviously would have. With that, we'll do a quick recap and see if there's any questions. The green is what I call my root URL. That's how you get to the archive on YouTube. You add in the year 2022 and you get to the live session Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you add in handout, the year year 2022, the month '09, and the day '03, you get about a 38-page PowerPoint slide handout. It's a PDF. That's these slides that we're going over. And if you want to look at a direct episode, you just put in the year, month, day code, and you go directly to that episode. Do I have any questions? Not seeing or hearing any questions, I'll move on. Now we're looking at the number of new listings in Santa Clara County and San Mateo County, single-family homes and condos, but we're only looking at 1 week, so there's a lot more fluctuation. You can see the normal decrease for Labor Day, the normal increase after Labor Day. This is the decrease that you would expect going into Labor Day, so I expect this number to come up next week as we come out of Labor Day. So right now, the number of new listings coming on the marketplace, for the most part, has been right about where you'd expect it to be. There was a little bit of a shortage in the month of July and August. That's a good thing. That's helped stabilize the marketplace. I expect there's going to be a shortage going forward, which will help improve the market conditions. Here's total inventory. This is my definition, by the way, is slightly different than most people. Most people include any listing that the listing agent wants backup offers. I do not do that, and I intentionally do not do that because that property really isn't available. Yeah, you can show it, but it's not available for that buyer to buy unless the first buyer backs out officially and signs releases. It also has a problem at the beginning part of the year where the number of offers accepted is increasing quickly, rapidly, and most of those inventory counts would include an increasing number of contingent backup offers continue to show, and that makes it look like inventory is actually growing, where the available inventory for a buyer to walk in the door and buy today without worrying about the previous buyer is actually decreasing. So that's the definition I use. There has to be no underlying contract that I'm aware of in order for me to count it as available. So you can see in the months of June and July, in August, we had surplus number of active listings without a contract compared to what you'd expect. And now that we've entered into September, we have a little bit of a shortage. That may continue, and that shortage is, and we'll see this in a minute, is actually more severe in Santa Clara County single-family homes. The number of new offers accepted, again, you can see that earlier this year we were above. Starting around week 15, we went below, and we've been below, but now we've had a significant increase the last 4 weeks, starting on the week 31 into week 32, into week 33, into week 34, into week 35. You're all getting much closer or above where you'd expect to be. This is looking at single-family homes only in both counties. That's my heat map. Days of unsold inventory, the key indicator. It turns red anytime you're below 42.5, and it starts off and it gets gradually red. So you can barely see this 42.4 would have a slight pink to it. And, I could almost say that I could see the square box. It's going to be the same size as all these others, but it's very faint pink. Then as the number decreases, the pink gets redder and redder until it saturates at 7. None of these are saturated. The darkest going to be Cupertino Sunnyvale at 19, basically at 20 days. Here is letting you look at it over time. You can see how red we were here in May after the market already slowed down, May 7th. You can see over time it got pretty pale, and you could argue on where the palest is, but basically here in July and August, and it's pretty pale here, but you're getting more areas of pink, so that's actually improving. But now this week was a marked improvement from last week. Every one of these is a darker shade of red. The one exception is expensive areas. Menlo Park, Atherton, Portola Valley actually went to a darker shade of blue because it's above 77.5. Here's the breakdown. You can see the rapid slowdown in the marketplace that people weren't aware of when it was initially happening in April and May. And then boom, we got up here to basically right after July the 4th, and ever since July 4th, it's been improving. It's sort of bizarre, but I think part of what was happening is holidays were having a bigger impact with COVID, and people were willing to get out and start traveling again right around April, and boom, the market slowed way down, and now people are getting burnt out. They're hearing about all the travel stories at airports, and they're getting less serious, about travel, and they're at home. I'd expect Labor Day, and I'd expect, the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah to have a bigger negative impact this year than they typically have. But by 2023, we'll probably be back to normal is my best guess as far as the impact holidays are having on the real estate marketplace. Here's DUI for the current year in the blue. You can see it reached a peak of just about 63, maybe 64, and now we're all the way down to 30. So that's a pretty dramatic improvement. This is 1 week data though. This fluctuates a lot. You can't put a lot of salt in it, but even if you go back 5 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you're between 50 and 30, which is why the 5 week number turns out to be somewhere right around 40, which is what you'd expect. There's roughly the same number of transactions happening. There's been roughly even slope, straight slope decrease. So you'd expect it to be right at week number 3. And that's exactly where it is, which is all good. Now you can see there's a normal decrease going into Labor Day, and that's this part of this extra decrease here. But afterwards, the week after, there's normally an upshoot. So I do expect this to go up. I wouldn't be surprised if we get very close to where we were last year. And the reason for that is there's going to be an influx of new listings starting about Wednesday of next week, and buyers haven't had an opportunity to buy those. So when I report the data Saturday of next week using Friday midnight as my cutoff, there's going to be all that new inventory without the time for buyers to make new offers. And therefore, we're going to have a slowdown in the DUI. Here is the magnitude of overbidding. You can see that almost everything is white. The exceptions are Saratoga, Las Gatos, the slowest area at 97.5%. They're getting 2.5% reduction. I get saturated blue at 95, so they're halfway to saturated. And I really don't ever expect to get to 95, frankly. And then you also have the expensive areas in San Mateo County, Atherton, Portola Valley, that's a shade of blue. On the shade of red, above 101.5%. The only thing that I perceive visually is the North San Mateo County area up here, Daly City, Tacoma, things of that nature. And they're at 103 even. And if I think I look at it, Foster City, San Mateo County coast, 101.6. So it's a 10th% above where I start getting a hint of pink. And knowing there's a hint of pink, I could almost say the white just above my cursor is a little bit pinker than the white over here in San Mateo County. If I didn't know that it should be there and is mathematically there, I wouldn't pick it up with the eye. But I could almost believe that the Half Moon Bay, the coast area of San Mateo County, is visually a little bit of a. The other place where you could pick it up potentially is looking at it over here and seeing the box. And I am not seeing the box. It's not, it should be the exact same size as the box of blue right above it. And I'm not picking it up. So, but that gives you an idea. When you're real close, you can't see it even though it's there. Here's your DUI for the 3 components. The red line is Santa Clara County single family homes. It's the lowest currently, but it looks like it's leveling off. And this is the magnitude of overbidding, just under 100%. Condos in Santa Clara County look like they're starting to taper off and level off. San Mateo County did this huge drop, which is pretty unusual. It's the single biggest drop I'm seeing, except for right here, which actually looks like a bad data point. So the decrease is pretty significant, but I believe the data is real. And what it turns out to be is 5 weeks ago, there was a pretty significant drop. This week, there was a pretty significant drop. We had 2 drops that combined out of the 5 weeks. Here's the overbidding magnitude for the macro data. So you can see that when everything's in a blender, you're now under 100%. This is the most recent 1 week data. The previous stuff, I think, was 5 week data. This is 5 week data for sure. Any of my heat maps are 5 week data. And here you can see there's some areas where overbidding is still more than half the sellers getting over their asking price, but you're also getting some blue, which means less than a third of the sellers are getting over their asking price. Saratoga, Las Gatos, and also San Martin, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, South County is also blue. Here's the frequency of overbidding, and you can see the drop in San Mateo County, and this is a 5 week number. So again, it's unusual to have that kind of drop, but it does happen. It's the most severe drop I'm noticing, except for bad data, like right here. I believe from everything I have seen, this is actually accurate data this time around, which is just one of those statistical flukes. And you have to remember, statistics is to help guide you in understanding the marketplace. There is no one right answer. So here's your frequency of overbidding, and you can see the big drop this week. And this is 1 week data, but you can see also 5 weeks ago, we had a big drop too. This is week 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are your 5 weeks. So you were a plateau here. Week 4 to 5 was a big drop, and week 1 to 2 was a big drop. So you had 2 weeks with a big drop, and overall you've dropped from, a number of 45 down to a number of 36. And so when you see the 5 week drop, it becomes believable. It sort of went here. You lost this week here, which is pretty flat. This is the week that dropped off, week six to week 5, got replaced by this week. So you'd expect this impact to be 1/5 that height differential. So you'd expect a drop from 45 to 36, 9, and 1/5 of that, call it a drop of 2. And if you go back over here, you're at 50/50, and that looks like more than a drop of 2, but it's not a drop of 5. It may be a drop of only 3. So it's a little bit bigger than I'd expect, but it's pretty explainable. And when you do this, you're looking at the raw data, and Microsoft crunches the numbers for me with macros, so I believe the numbers are in fact accurate. Here's your sales price. This has nothing to do with the heatness of the marketplace. It's simply price. White and Redwood City is the median for the whole blended data that I use. Redder colors are more expensive areas. Bluer colors are less expensive areas. It's colors assigned by the middle number, which is the median for the micro market. The number to the left is the cheapest 10 percentile. The number to the right is the most expensive 10 percentile. Here's the 3 components: Santa Clara County single family homes, San Mateo County single family homes, and Santa Clara County condos. You can see they've all come down. They're all back to the pricing they were in 2021. Roughly looking at it, I could line up a graph, and maybe a horizontal line, and maybe I should do that. Here's your appreciation, and you can see, we're somewhere in the teens for the most part, which is not bad for 2-year appreciation, because I'm going from the entire calendar year of 2020 to the current week. And this week here is when the median close escrow happened. So half the escrows closed before that day, half closed after, back in 2020. It's almost exactly a 2-year appreciation. And if you're having 15, 20% appreciation, that's good. 30% appreciation in South County is fantastic. But look at where we were just in the month of May. South County, for example, was at 50%. They've lost 20% of their market just since May. If you had a $2 million house in Morgan Hill in May, that you actually sold or tried to sell or did a CMA on, today it would be worth about 20% lower than that, or about 1.6 million. And for someone to think that they gave up $400,000 in 4 months is a pretty tough thing to swallow and believe. But the data is consistent, and everything says that, and that's really what we've had. It's been the biggest price drop I think I've ever experienced. Definitely in magnitude, because the prices are higher, but I think also on a percentage basis. And a lot of that has to do with the stuff in May selling was not that sellers were asking for way more, but we went from 118% of the seller's asking price to 100% of the seller's asking price. So if the seller was just asking the same price, that's 18% of the 20% drop that I'm talking about in South County. Now, I'd have to look at numbers specifically for South County, but the order of magnitude is roughly the same. If you look at Santa Clara County overall, it went from 44% down to 16%. Okay, so it's a 23% drop. And if we went from 118% to 100%, which is what we basically did, that's 18% of the 23% drop. So sellers have only dropped their asking price by 5%. So anyway, the bold number of the current week, these numbers are very respectable appreciation for 2 years overall, unless you go back and say, look at where we were just 4 months ago. Except when you start getting down to condos, you actually have some areas with negative numbers. San Mateo County, negative 12.5%, North San Mateo County, minus 3.5%, and even affordable areas in Santa Clara County are off 1%. But even if you call that flat, you're back to pricing in 2020, not in 2021. Here is a summary of the different micro market areas and what the conditions you'd experience in those micro market areas. DUI is the biggest indicator. It's the most responsive. And you can see you're back into the red. So you're starting to get back into a seller's marketplace. This is overbidding. You can see it lags behind, but it's pretty neutral. So that means everybody's right around 100%. And that's in fact what the numbers show. And neutral over here here means you, for the most part, sellers are getting about a third to half of your sellers are getting more than their asking price. And so the numbers here are basically in that range. Yes, you got one here right at 50, but you also have one here at, I guess, 36 is the lowest I have. 35 is the lowest I have with no color. You do have two areas, including Santa Clara County or South County overall with 32, which is getting a shade of blue because it's lower than the 33. Here's the breakdown. Starting off with active inventory, Santa Clara County only has 77% of the inventory to expect. It's the only one that has a shortage. San Mateo County has 20% more inventory than you'd expect. Santa Clara County condos and townhouses has 10% more than you'd expect. The color is the market conditions. So 20% shortage would be a red hot seller's marketplace. 20% surplus would be an ice cold buyer's marketplace. So you can get some indication of what the market is, but you have different information that all conflicts. And because if you go over to DUI, the next column over, Santa Clara County is red hot at 35. San Mateo County is in a balanced marketplace, about ready to turn red. I mean, if it was 39.9, I would change that to red. Anything under 40 becomes red. The inventory says it's cool, but the rate of its selling are almost a hot marketplace. And down here, Santa Clara County, you got a balanced marketplace as far as inventory, but you're 37 days, 36.9 days of inventory, you actually have a hot marketplace. So you have to blend and look at all these different indications to get a real sense of what the market is. Overbidding, everybody is neutral now because everybody's between 99 and 101.5, and sure enough, that's accurate. A week ago, San Mateo County was hot at 102%. Frequency of overbidding, everybody this week is balanced at between 33 and 50%, and we're sort of in the middle. 38 is the sort of the lowest and the highest 46, so there's a fairly tight range as far as the frequency of overbidding. And appreciation, you might say, 10%, 15% appreciation, that's pretty good. Why is it blue? It's blue because this is 2 years, and it's blue because we were at 24% appreciation in 2021, and we were at 40% appreciation in 2022. So we've lost all the appreciation of 2022 and some of the appreciation in 2021. I couldn't see myself saying that that was a hot, even though normally I would say anything above 10, so that would be the first three, would be considered red. It's just a matter of where we've come from and interpreting the data a little bit. Now we're changing to Santa Clara County single family homes, and we're using 15 through 19 as our reference years. This is looking at DUI for 5 weeks. You can see the slowdown starting dramatically here about third week in April up until about the second week in July. And starting in the third week of July, it started to improve, and it looks like it's still going to continue to improve. The black line is the 5-year median. The blue line is worst you've had in the 5 years. So we were worse than the worst 5 years. And that's significant because up just a few months ago, we were better than the best we were in the 5 years. But you can see we're now basically in a typical marketplace for the last 5 years because you're basically right on top of the thin black line. This is the delta DUI. This is where I subtract the current DUI from the delta. So we were 25 days above here, which was the peak of the slowness of the marketplace. We're now basically since about the middle of August, we've actually been a little bit faster. You came down and went up there. There's going to be some perturbations here with the holidays. But you're basically right where you'd expect it to be as far as DUI. This is a 7-day average. Sort of shows the same thing. This first one was based on the raw data. So it's looking at the raw data. And then to get rid of some of the jagging, I'm looking at the 7-day average. So I'm just looking at 7 days, and that's what you get. Now we're almost comparing apples and apples, but we're looking on, that should be September the 3rd. Sorry about that. Today's the 3rd. So we're only off by 2 days, 2 days during the holiday. I really don't expect much to change. Your number of inventory, 950. It's basically going to come in, sort of not the lowest inventory we had of 650, but also not the highest of 1350 or 1200. So you have reasonable inventory. The days on sold inventory, probably in my opinion, the single biggest indicator. 34, call it 35. You had 52 and 19. You had 44 and 18. Nobody was really complaining about those being bad years. Yes, 17 was on fire, and we did did slow down after 17. So, those were definitely slower years, but we're still better than both of those years. 16 was a good year at 40, 15, 41, 41. Don't know why these are zero. I need to make a note of myself to come back and look at those. And then, all these back here are basically slower marketplaces. And, 2005, I don't remember being, and in fact, that was a good year. It was before the mortgage meltdown, and you were still at 43 days. So you actually are faster now than you were in some of the early good years in the last 2 decades. On sales per day at 27.4, you're one of the lowest we've ever been there. Now, granted, yes, there's 2 years in 19 and 18 that had fewer number of transactions, but all these other years all had more transactions. So we have the third fewest number of transactions right now. Sale price to list price ratio, 99.8. I think that's the only year except for, okay, there's a couple of years, 99 in 2011, 98 in 2008, and 99 in 2003. We're right in competition for the four of the worst years as far as the sale price to list price ratio, as far as the frequency of overbidding. I'm looking back. Okay, so you have 31, so that was less. 36.5 is roughly the same, but a little less. 27 is less. 32 is less, and 18 is way less. It's not like we were just earlier this year where, 90% of the sellers were getting more than their asking price, 82 a year ago. And then even in 18 and 19, you were at 67, 45. So you're down. Here's where my median is showing up as being a little bit under. This is looking at single family homes in Santa Clara County, 5-week number, and that's what the other data was. I'm not sure why there is a discrepancy. Earlier, I was saying that we were just above 16, and that was bothering me because I was knowing there was a number coming up below 16. This is the number below, and this is single family homes in Santa Clara County only. Let's go back and find that. So here, 16.4. I'm not sure how I can have two different numbers. I got them differently at different times. I am going to look into this because I do not know why. And the two numbers, I pull this off. I get my data. I calculate what the median is for each of the counties, and it's coming out at 16.4. And my other calculation was obviously quite a bit less than 16.4. It was 15. It was 1584 or something like that. It's not a huge discrepancy, but there should not be a discrepancy like that. I need to look into this. It should not happen. And here you're at 1675. This is last month, so it could be different than this month's. Graphs right up here on the title. If you want to join live, you put in 2022, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. You add in handout and the year 2022, the month 09, the day 03, and you get the PowerPoint handout, about 38 slides this morning. And then if you want a specific episode, you put in the green URL and the year 09, 03, and to get to the specific episode. Not seeing any questions. Have a great week. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the holidays. Try to stay cool. Bye now.